Okay, so last but not least, Travis is here to talk about programs and services for Iowa Vocational Rehab. And then just like the rest of them, the rest of the presenters, you can ask questions as well, or put it in the chat. All right, so Travis, you can take it away.
All right, thank you guys for inviting me. I'm going to talk a little bit about Voc Rehab, kind of the process, and maybe some services that would be helpful for everyone. If you guys have questions, just put them in the chat. I have the chat pulled up right now, so I'll be able to kind of manage both. So I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services, but we work with adults and students who have disabilities, and especially barriers to employment. So what that means is you can call your local office, and if you're not sure where your local office is, I just recommend Googling it or calling the Des Moines office, and they can direct you. So the way it works is you would call the office, you'd get signed up for an orientation, and then go through that and meet your vocational counselor. The vocational counselor looks at your disability and barriers to employment. So all of us are most likely in a wheelchair. So that would be our barrier, right? We need things to help us get to work, first off. So some of the services that would be provided would be home modifications. So if somebody is ready to go to work, right, you need a modified bathroom, something that is going to help you get ready in the morning, because that's the first step going to work. The second step would be transportation. So modified vehicles, Voc Rehab can help with paying for those modifications. They don't buy the whole vehicle. You would be purchasing the vehicle and then paying for the modifications. Other things would be assistive technology in the workplace. Computers, we also provide 40% for college tuition and can provide a personal aid. So some of you guys that are going to school or want to go to school and maybe have some barriers, bringing a backpack, maybe need transportation to get to school. You can hire a personal aide and they can provide those services for you. I worked with many different vocational counselors throughout my time as getting my bachelor's degree at University and my master's degree at University of Iowa. And throughout those times, I had a personal service aide that got to assist me on campus when I needed that. So those would be some great services. The way that they're really looking at moving forward is your file stays open as long as you're working towards employment and wanting to achieve that long-term goal. So if you're wanting to go to school to be a lawyer, for example, they would work with you through your undergraduate, your master's, throughout that whole time until you achieve that long-term goal. So they're going to want to work with you and provide whatever services are needed for you to be successful in that long-term goal. That is really broad, but I know that we're running kind of behind time. So, and I know some of you guys are familiar with Voc Rehab, but if any of you guys have any questions right now, please feel free to put them in the chat or just ask me. Otherwise, it seems pretty quiet right now. But I really recommend anybody that is thinking about work, if it's part-time, full-time, going back to school, I would just check it out, call them, ask them. All right, Doug has a question. Returning to college to finish her teaching she has so far. So I would recommend asking for our post-secondary setting pay scale. So there's an Excel sheet that tells exactly how much they're paying. So check that out. It may depend on like a private institution. So we pay for 40% of a college credit based on, if you're a freshman, it would be a little bit lower. Freshman and sophomore is a little bit lower than your junior or senior year. But when you're going in to get your master's or any of that, the price continues to increase. So what they would do is ask your counselor to show you the tuition assistance amount for that college, because every college has different amounts. Do you have money available? Yes, we have money available year round. So that it shouldn't be an issue at all. And like I said, some counselors are different than others, and you may run into barriers. Ask them if you can, maybe switch counselors or talk with a supervisor. It's okay to do that. And yes, if you were once involved and had closed a case, you can go back to Voc Rehab. I'll give you an example. I received Voc Rehab services. I went and got my master's, was encouraged to apply at Voc Rehab. I do that, so I'm a strong advocate for anyone that's wanting those services. The other day, I had something happen to my vehicle, so I got to go back and work with VR again and paying for modifications for a new vehicle. So you can go back. That is totally okay. It's never one and done, so that's awesome. Any other questions for you guys? Like I said, check it out because they can do a whole lot of things. Like I wasn't portion of vehicle adaptations. They will cover 100% of the vehicle adaptations. So you have to be striving to get back to work, especially in like a rural area that doesn't have access to transportation. They would be covering that for sure. I actually had a vehicle modified, my first one, when I was going to school because I lived in a very small town. There was no access to transportation. So I had to get to school, right? And they covered that transportation, the modifications. Like I said, you have to buy the vehicle though. And the vehicle has to be relatively new and not as many miles, because if Voc Rehab is going to spend $30,000 or $40,000 on the modifications, they want that vehicle to last. So that is a stipulation, but you can work with your VR counselors and walk through that process. Those are some great questions. Does anyone else have any questions? And I sent Angie my information. So if you guys think of questions, always email me. I don't know if anyone had my number, but I'm going to throw that in the chat right now. It's my personal number. So you guys can reach out to me and ask me any questions. I don't mind at all.
Great.
If you can't drive, if you have a family member who would be transporting you, and you're still wanting to work, we can still pay for those adaptations. Yep.
Great. Thank you
Yes,
so much, Travis.
Kimbra is right too. If you have adaptations in your vehicle, it's $60. Don't be paying that full price. So it is just one little form. That is a great point. Thanks, Kimbra.
Yes, great information. Thank you again, Travis. We're so happy that you came on, and that was a lot of information, but good stuff to know. So yes, we definitely will share your contact information for further questions that people have.